Hey everyone. Hi, it's Tony D here with another video. I'm going to try to keep this one short. I'm trying to make shorter videos. This one is about screenwriting, and I want to do like a series of short videos, so this is the first one. Okay, so what is the job of a screenwriter? This is a sort of a very basic question that a lot of my clients are very confused about, and that a lot of new screenwriters are confused about. So what actually do you do, what should you do, and what should you not do? All right, and we're talking not about big studio budget movies. That's like a separate thing. It's sort of a separate, I mean, it's similar, but there are a lot of other factors involved with that. What we're talking about is productions, usually low budget, independently produced, and you know, even for small short films or whatever. What does a screenwriter do? What's the screenwriter's job? I always tell my clients, a screenwriter is like an architect. The movie is your house, and the architect builds the blueprint of the house that you're going to follow to build it. And just like a house, a movie has, structure. That's the key element in the process. Your job as a screenwriter, if you're a new screenwriter, is to create the structure of the screenplay that the rest of the people are going to follow. That's the number one thing you should protect. Yeah, there are scenes and bits and you know, even the plot you want to protect because they're precious to you. But really, if you let the producer or director pull apart the structure, it doesn't matter. The other stuff doesn't matter because the movie's going to fall apart. Now, where are you in the hierarchy of a movie is a question that, well, I don't really get the question, but it is a question that people, especially new screenwriters, should think about. They think they're somewhere else in the process, but they really don't understand. The first guy who's in charge of a movie is the producer, whoever brings in the money. The money man is the boss. I mean, you have to accept that. The next guy will be the director. Now, sometimes it's the same guy, the producer and director, especially on a low-budget movie. Sometimes he'll be the actor, too. And sometimes he'll be a screenwriter. Sometimes he'll come to you with a screenplay that you're going to fix or add to or whatever. But the producer is always the boss. The guy with the money is the guy you listen to first. The next person on the totem pole is the director. Okay, if there's a separate person, the director is next. He has to listen to the producer because it's all about money. Now, creatively, a good producer will pass the ball to the director and let him handle the creative aspects. So you do have to listen to the director because he's going to change stuff in your script. Sometimes for pragmatic reasons, but sometimes for budgetary reasons, or sometimes just because, you know, he's a more creative guy and he wants to flex his creative muscles. So those are the two guys you absolutely, without fail, have to listen to. Now, the rest of the crew and cast, you don't necessarily have to listen to, okay? You don't report to them. And that's an important distinction because sometimes you'll have the star or the lead actor, who may or may not be a star, come to you and ask you questions or pitch you scenes or whatever. And really, as a screenwriter, you have to protect your credit because everybody, whether they're in Hollywood or outside of it, they want that screenwriting credit. And they're perfectly happy to do almost nothing and get a co-screenwriting credit. That's your baby. You got to protect, besides getting your money and your contract straight, you got to protect your credit. Now, the producer may insist he gets a screenwriting credit. There's not much you could do about that. With the director, you can fight it a little bit. Kind of depends on his position and what he really does. But you should try to discourage him from writing the script with you. You may not have a choice in that. I mean, don't be rude about it. But, you know, try to keep yourself apart from the director during your process as much as possible, because they'll be happy to get in there and grab a screenwriting credit too, and even though they may not do much, but you may not have a choice. You may have to split it with with the producer and the director. They're the only two guys you're pretty powerless against. But if the lead actor comes to you and starts pitching you ideas and wants to like work with you on scenes and wants to come in there, or anybody else, the first thing you should do is you should go to the producer and say, hey, this guy is coming at me with scenes or whatever, and he's a nice guy and whatever, but you hired me to write the screenplay, so I'm going to write the screenplay, and I need you to talk to him or do something about him. Like, you go to the boss when somebody else in the workspace is encroaching on your turf. That's the appropriate measure. You may have to go to the director instead. He may have more sway. Sometimes the producer and the director, the producer may be totally hands off and I'll talk to the director. So, and again, those guys, the producer and the director, may come at you and say, oh, no, you gotta work with him, and you won't have any choice. If you're in the Writers Guild, and this again is more studio stuff, the Writers Guild actually has rules to figure out who gets what kind of writing credit. But in the situation you're likely to be in, that's not going to happen. So you have to try your best to defend your sole screenwriting credit. Now, if you finish the screenplay, get paid, and walk away, and then some other guys come in and rewrite, there's really nothing much you could do about that. However, I had a producer who was pitching me ideas. He was also in the movie, and he had the story. I mean, he gave me the story. So I talked to him about it, and I said, really, I'm writing the screenplay. What you should get is a story by credit. And that may placate a person like a producer who may just have a bunch of big ideas to throw at you, and then you write the screenplay around it. So like a story by so-and-so, and then you get the actual screenwriting credit, because it's a lot of work to write a screenplay, and you should get credit if you're doing all the work. Same thing with the director. If the director's coming at you with all these ideas and then later says, oh, I should get a credit too, say, well, why don't you take a story credit or a story consultant credit or something like that. And guys who are more reasonable will be fine with that. They may not be, though. It's a very ego-driven business, so you may have to, share the credit. But as long as you're getting paid, you'll be mostly happy. And really, when people see two credits up there and one's really the director, the directors get most of the credit for the movie anyway, So there is a lot of assumption there. They're going to assume like you did all the real writing and he was the guy who just sort of supervised it. So, and it's not a horrible thing to share credit with somebody. Getting into the studio system, one of the ways to get into the guild is you may have to share credit with a Writers Guild member in order to get approved by the studio to even be on it, to even be on the movie. So that may be something, later down the road that that almost happened to me. We were negotiating, it didn't work out, but that may be one way to get into the guild and move up to that tier. So your job as a screenwriter is to provide structure to the story and plot and the screenplay. And when the director or producer or whomever come at you to change things, the battles you want to fight is you want to protect the structure, that 3-act structure. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Act 1, you introduce the characters, you introduce the problem. Act 2, the hero's journey continues. There's more obstacles and things get really bad. By that time you should have introduced everybody who's going to be in this thing, and by the end of Act 2 it's really getting bad. And then Act 3, there's this climactic conclusion, and then there's a big change in the character and a denouement where it ends, and you sort of wrap everything up depending on the kind of movie it is. Now, different genres require different endings. We'll get into that in another video, or else this will be forever. But mainly you want to protect that 3-act structure. So when people start, anything that doesn't drive the movie forward to that 3rd act, to that ending, really is just a divergence. You know, you can kind of get away with it in comedies a little bit if you go off on a little side thing, if it's really funny. But you can't go too far off, even in a comedy, because people are there to watch the movie and they want to know what happens at the end. And if you're going off on this tangent, it may confuse things. They may be like, oh, wait, this movie's going in a different way. I didn't expect this. Oh, no, wait, now we're back. So, you know, you got to try to stay on point. So if it's about a monster and the monster's killing people, you got to keep killing people, move forward, move forward, move forward. And, you know, whatever you're doing. Clients will come to you and they may ask you to raise the money. That's a producer's job. You know, you could say no or you could say yes. But if you say yes, understand then you should get more credit. You should get a producer's job, a producer title, or at very least an associate producer title. If you bring money, you're a producer. Financing is a producer's job. That's the main job. And they hire the people too. So if you bring in the director, if you have a friend who's a director, maybe a cinematographer, you bring them in, you're producing. That's producing. That is making the movie happen. So don't let clients drag you into that unless that's something you want to do. Your main goal is to write the movie and be done. Now, if you get brought onto the movie to do rewrites on set while they're shooting, which tends to be a bigger movie, you should get more pay for that. I mean, if you're going to be on the set every day, you should get paid every day. And you should get a pretty decent sum. You know, that can vary. It depends on the budget of the movie. Just be careful when you sign your contract. Don't sign on for a flat fee and to show up on the movie to do rewrites or whatever. Now, you may do a thing where you should be available for a phone call, you know, at the end of the day, and maybe they do a couple of rewrites with you. But again, you should be paid for that. Maybe you get paid less if you're just going to, you know, be available within a day or two to do a rewrite or something. But if you're going to be there every day, like I was going to be on this movie, it didn't get financed yet. It's still kind of in the works, but it was in Boston and they wanted me on the set for the whole 3 months. Now I was going to be in the movie too, but just being there for 3 months, you know, I need money. You know, I still got bills, even though I'm not here, even though I'm getting, you know, a place to stay and food to eat while I'm on the set, but there's weekends too, you know, if they're not shooting every day. So you need money. I mean, you got to always think of the money end of this because movie guys are happy to take advantage of you. If you're willing to work for free, they will happily let you work for free. So you know, you can't be a jerk about it. You got to be nice. You got to say, well, I need to be paid for that if that's something you want to do. Now, you may be just starting out. You may be willing to go the extra mile for a producer or a director for whatever reason. Maybe it's they're shooting near your house and it's no big deal. You got no job anyway. You're just, you know, you're out of college and you're living at home or something. You know, you may be able to do that just for the experience of it. I wouldn't knock that, but again, you have to think of these things. Don't let people just keep adding on. Your main job is to write that screenplay within a set period of time for a set amount of money and then be done. And then later, if there are rewrites, and you should try to limit your rewrites, you know, directors are just like any other creative person. They can overdevelop. Though I've had clients who will rewrite screenplays to death. One of my screenplays, which got produced, had no less than 13 drafts. 13 drafts. That was a lot of drafts of the movie. And a lot of them were very different. I would say the first 4 drafts was a completely different movie. Then the next 5 or 6 drafts was another completely different movie. And then everything after about draft 7 or 8 was another completely different movie. And then the last 2 were pretty different, but not a completely different movie. So, you know, and it got ridiculous. And I didn't get paid for all those drafts, you know, because producers will hold the money out there until you're done. And sometimes they define what done means. So you got to try to define it. You got to, you know, the most ideal thing is to charge by your time. You know, you say, well, if I'm going to write a screenplay for you, it's 2 months or 3 months or a month or however whatever time period you want to charge for whatever amount of money, and then after that it's more money, and that will get the producer or director, whoever hired you, to move up. You know, they'll be ready to go because they realize, oh, if I don't talk to my screenwriter by Tuesday, I owe him another $1,000 or whatever. So that's the basic job of the screenwriter. And then, of course, you get to go to the premiere, and hopefully you don't see your name along with 15 other names who rewrote your screenplay. All right, so that's it for a screenwriter's job. My name is Tony D. Check out the Webcomic Factory and Superfrat online, and if you need any screenplays, you know where to find me. Thanks.